Witajcie na Brodach z Kosmosu. Dzisiaj ze mną jest Will Simpson, którego właśnie nie powinienem musieć przedstawiać, ale odpowiedzialny za takie tytuły jak między innymi oczywiście Sędzia Dredd, 2000 AD, a dla wielu z Was będzie też znany oczywiście ze gry o Tron i dowiecie się, w jaki sposób jest odpowiedzialny za to, co widzieliście w grze o Tron. Więc hello Will, welcome to Beards from Outer Space.
Okay, thank you very much.
And as I said before, you're like a living legend when it comes to comics, but you're still working not in the comic book industry. So let's start from a question that try to combine those two elements. So was it hard for you to jump from drawing comics to drawing storyboards, etc.? Because of the different perspective of what the director asked of you, you want a wide shot, whatever. So was it a huge difference, or was it just like every day?
Oh my God! No, you see, it was a complete accident when I first got into doing storyboards anyway. And I was in London and I bumped into a friend who had a low-budget feature film that was being made now. Basically, they liked my work from 2000 AD, so I was asked, would I fancy storyboarding this feature film? And I thought to myself, well, how hard can it be? It's a comic strip. So the point was, I actually found the movement into doing storyboarding quite easy. I mean, I didn't know everything then. So it was one of those interesting things where, you know, in a way, I actually did do a comic strip version, except with regular panels. And I mean, it was still the same principle. It was still that whole idea of interesting shots and how you tell a story. I just didn't know such things as crossing the line and so on, which is a big thing with storyboarding for screen. But it was something that you automatically could still tell a story. So it was only later that I started to understand more about the nature of actual film. So,
and did it you got sunk in and then just once they got you?
Well, you're actually right, because the thing was, I came back home from doing while I was doing the storyboards for 24 hours in London, this low budget movie. And I thought, well, the film world was a bit of fun. Then my brother and I had started doing animation at home for a company, Rogue Rocket, and we were developing a lot of different ideas and so on, which I storyboarded and did concept work for and so on. So again, I was already doing more stuff, but I remember I'd been asked to do some costume designs for a short film called Tonight We Fly. Which was a friend of mine, two aging superheroes, nemesis characters. Anyway, and I was invited down to set on the Sunday. They were shooting it over a weekend, and that was probably the biggest mistake of my life, because I walked in and they handed me a bottle of beer and a sandwich, and I thought, what? I'm down here just to watch these actors. I'm getting a bottle of beer and a sandwich, and this is filmmaking. And that was the illusion and the confusion. But it made me think, wow, I like filmmaking. This is good. So the thing was, it became a gradual process of movies that I was asked to do different work for, and it wasn't always storyboarding either. That's the thing.
So if you would receive a proposal to work on a comic book, would you even consider it when you consider the fact that you have so much work with Game of Thrones, etc.? Would you consider going back? And if, would it be a totally different? You said that you moved naturally, but would coming back be also natural?
You see, the funny thing is, I never actually stopped drawing comics.
Oh.
Over all of these years that I've been working in films, I've done short stories for anthology books.
Oh, fun.
I did a graphic novel in Belfast that was we taught a bunch of students about comic strips.
Oh.
And there's a book called On the Road, I think it's called, in Belfast, which I did a 50-page binding story for, and we would go off track into somebody else's artwork and somebody else's story and come back around to the story that I was drawing. So the thing was, there's stuff like that I've meant in doing. Then I got into doing my own comic strip that has been going on for years because I have to only do it whenever I'm in between film work. And the crazy thing is, it's amazing how awkward it is getting back into it.
Yeah, that's
yeah, because it's like you're not doing it every day, and you find that first like couple of weeks or month even, when you start to try and get back into doing comics, you're actually relearning.
Yeah, because like, do you find yourself drawing and then you look at it? Damn, this is a movie perspective. Like, I'm doing it.
It's not so much that, because the thing was, I was always influenced by movies. Sorry to have interrupted. I was influenced by movies anyway all my life. I mean, when I was a kid, I was sitting drawing in front of the television. I still draw in front of the television, but it's one of those weird things. The thing is that I grew up watching Star Trek and Doctor Who and loads of other movies, war movies, science fiction movies, everything. My mum and I, westerns. We watched lots of westerns.
We on YouTube, we can swear.
Okay. I used to sit on a Saturday watching movies with my mum. She was heavily into movies. So the thing was, I was always drawing. And I think so much of the filmmaking thing was in my head, or in myself. It was already there. And so you knew what you were working for, so you adapt. Artists are a very adaptable bunch, and certainly comic artists are a very adaptable bunch. I mean, and the other thing is that comic artists pretty much can draw anything in their world, their style.
Yeah, that's true.
And so the thing is, it's, can you bring that into filmmaking? Can you adapt? Yes, you can. And the point is, I always consider artwork art. No matter what it is that comes out of you, it's like if you're drawing a comic strip, if you're doing an illustration, if you're doing a painting that's for exhibition, if you're doing a commercial, the whole point is it's your skill being applied to whatever it is. So no matter who you are as an artist, you're making a living.
Yeah.
So you just jump between things.
Yeah.
And it's not a terrible thing. I mean, I know there's the idea that we should all be boxed into one thing. You're a fine artist, you're an illustrator, you're a comic artist, you're whatever. I don't believe that. I believe that most of the artists that I know, they use that ability. They adapt their ability, and
maybe they have to.
Jesus, it's like back in the day of Leonardo da Vinci, whose work I loved. Da Vinci was the greatest commercial artist ever because he was constantly being hired by people to do work,
Yeah, but I'm trying to reroute to my.
That's sorry, rewrite to. You rewrite.
But I have new questions. If you like, you're such a huge person, like, because of Game of Thrones. I saw multiple interviews with you where like everyone wanna ask, did you create this? Did you create that? Are you responsible for the White Walkers, etc.? Don't worry about the books. Are you responsible?
I know it's crazy because I don't know this stuff. I don't know that I'm meant to be this identity, because the thing is, for me, I was very lucky. I was right there at the beginning. I was working on Your Highness. The crazy medieval comedy movie, Natalie Portman and Danny McBride. And the thing was, I was loving that job. That was like, it was just great fun. And you probably know the story, but I was asked by your friends don't. But I was asked during Your Highness by Mark Huffman, my producer, could I do some extra work on a potential TV series? And I said, sure, what is it? And he said, I can't tell you. And I said, but okay, what's it about? He said, well, it's medieval fantasy.
And you already did it with Reign of Fire.
I did do Reign of Fire, yes, of course. Anyway, the thing was, I said, sure, Mark, no problem. What do I need? He asked me to meet the production designer and supervising art director, and they gave me little samples of script, but it had no headers, so I didn't know what it was. I'd never read the book. And I went away and I drew castles and knights and beheadings and some giant wolves. And the thing was, I handed all that stuff in. It was sent away to America. I didn't know anything else about it. I went back to working on Your Highness as always. And halfway through Your Highness, Mark came and said, we've got Game of Thrones. And I said to him, what? Is that what I was working on? He said, yes. I said, does that mean I have a job? To which he said, yes. So it meant that at the end of Your Highness, I just moved over sideways into Game of Thrones. And the first things I was asked to do were the hero weapons, so things like Ice and Needle and Longclaw, and the Dothraki weapons, and the Hound's weapons, and Lannister weapons, and all of these different types, different world stuff. That's what I was doing. And then I just got thrown things like, can you design White Walkers? Can you do this? Can you do Cersei's carriage? Can you do some work on the Godswood tree? Can you do it was all these different little bits. I mean, Dothraki stuff for the set dressers. I was working on all things because we were a really small team then. So it's been really lucky, and I mean, David and Dan were wonderful, nicest people to work with. And the thing was, they seemed to really like the work, so I was kept on, and I went into the first season, I storyboarded it, storyboarded the second season, it just kept on going. And, it's different now. I mean, it's a much bigger entity, and there are the visual effects have used storyboard guys in the States to do certain things that were, pre the production starting up again. So the thing is, some of the work would be done over there, but in the end, it's like, I've said it's either 85%, 90% of the storyboards I've done, so that's pretty good out of 9 years. This is my 9th year.
Yeah, that's exactly. 8
seasons, 9th year.
So you're responsible for like for all the hate of the fans who I envisioned White Walkers differently. How could you? And for all the love.
But you see, but the White Walkers on screen are different from what I painted anyway. But that's the point, because there's a progression. I've been very lucky because the concepts that I did were almost like prelim concepts. They were things where it gets people into motion thinking about what they're going to do. So my White Walkers are different. But the thing is, I like my White Walkers. But when you come to making them as a practical thing, a practical creature, you got to think there's a man in a suit, or is there elements of CGI? And either way, it's going to alter things on the basis of what you've done. But I don't care, because it's like, I loved my part in that, I mean, it's the fact is that I did do those things. That was my part. The three-eyed raven, that painting of the three-eyed raven, that there's 4 images on one big board. Dave and Dan came to me and asked me to do a three-eyed raven, which I did. And the next day they got the image and they said, yeah, this is our three-eyed raven. So the point is, it's like, I mean, that's been something I've done on little promo pieces and so on. There's been video of that. And it's nice to do. I mean, it's great that, it is great that you're part of that. And that you were a big part of it at the beginning, Yeah.
So, if you would,
and the rest of the way through.
So now, as Game of Thrones became such a huge thing, and you would have to, let's say, compare it to one of your comic books. How would you weigh, like what would be, which would make you more proud? The 9 years with Game of Thrones, or for example, I don't know, working with Dredd, or with Hellraiser, or with Batman, for example. It's or maybe comics in general.
I think it's a progression of what you do, because I loved Game of Thrones. I mean, I'm on the last season and I'm really enjoying it. But I loved that whole thing, the worlds you were learning about, your work being accepted, appreciated into that world, the thing that you were trying to do, trying to make a really good TV series. Your bit of it, because there's so many people there, there's so much of a crew, so many people designing stuff. Now there's a whole fleet of concept guys on there, and they're all fantastic. And the thing is, you're part of it. You're part of that history, which is great. But I wouldn't have got to that history if I hadn't done Judge Dredd, if I hadn't done Road Trooper, if I hadn't done the Hellblazer stuff, Batman stuff, Vamps and all that. Transformers, for goodness sake. And it's like all of that work. It's a progression of your life, and it's leading to the next thing. I mean, that's the point. Oh my God, people have said to me, "Oh, what are you going to do when Game of Thrones is finished?" And you're sort of sitting thinking, well, I'll do the next thing. Because the point is, you will. I'm absolutely engrossed in it while I'm doing it. It's brilliant. But each year, I've only done half a year roughly on Game of Thrones each time. And you come out and you go off and there's another movie happening, you go and do it. I mean, I worked on Oh gosh, I did Dracula, Untold. I did some of that. I did Byzantium, the vampire movie with Neil Jordan. That was brilliant fun. I did Unknown way back with Liam Neeson.
I wanted to ask you about it because
in Berlin.
How different was the process of creating their storyboards, etc. Because this is not a movie with dragons.
No, it's not. But that's the thing, you see. But this is the point. It's the adaptability. What I was saying earlier, it's the adaptability of an artist. The point is, you're still storytelling.
Yeah, but what
the only thing that's different is you've got cars instead of dragons. You've got regular clothes instead of warrior clothes. But no, but the thing with it was I had just finished the pilot of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
I'd done Your Highness that year. I'd finished the pilot that year. And this was coming up to Christmas, and I got a phone call from a producer that I'd worked with on Your Highness, who was now in Berlin, and he said, he'd put the word about me to Willy Wands, the production. Was he the line producer, I think? Anyway, and Willie rang me up and said, we'd like you to come out to Berlin to work on a film that we're doing for a week.
For a week?
For a week.
Okay.
And this is very near Christmas. God, it's very near Christmas. I said, can I think about it? I'll call you tomorrow. And he said, okay, but you will call me. And I said, absolutely. And the minute I put the phone down, I thought, holy shit, I've never been to Berlin. Oh my God, I'd love to go to Berlin. And it's in the winter. Fantastic. So, because I thought, it's only a week. So I picked up the phone the next day, and I was like, I was thinking, I hope they haven't given the job away. And I rang him back and said, yeah, I'll be very happy to come out to Berlin. Okay, we're getting you a flight. He said, can you come out on the Monday? And I said, absolutely. So I flew out. Now, I think they'd fired the first two storyboard guys. So there was myself and another friend, Steve was on it, I think. Steve, wasn't it? And the thing was, at the very first day I arrived, I said, went to meet the director. I said, no, you're getting on the recce bus and you're going off with the director. And I said, okay, so I get on the bus. I sat down beside the director and he gave me a look like, what are you doing here? I said, I'm your new storyboard guy. And he said, okay. And I said, where do you want to start? He said, at the beginning. And I go, well, all right. And the thing was, I had my script with me and he started explaining stuff and I started scribbling this down at the side of my script. And he said to me, you're very fast. And I'm going, but this is just the roughs, man. This is just my. He said, I know, I understand, but you are very fast. And I'm going, okay, excellent. Yeah. And so all the way through the day, he would pull me over, and I would rough out my ideas with him, and then I would go away, and the rest of the guys would go in to get their 5 minutes of time or whatever. I'd go and take photographs around Berlin while this is happening, which is great. Wherever we were, I'd be able to go outside, take shots. Excellent. And the thing was, I ended up, he'd asked me to do a sequence by the Wednesday. I said, sure, no problem. And I got a call on the Tuesday morning. And I told his assistant, look, I'm nowhere near finished because I did say it would be Wednesday. And he said, no, he just wants to see how you're getting on. I said, okay. So I come upstairs and I meet Jamie. And Jamie has a look at the work and he's going through the copies. And then he looks up at me and he says, you really can draw, can't you? And I went, yes, I can. And he went, okay, I'll see you Wednesday. And off I went. And at the end of that week, I was told, you're coming back in January, is that okay? For 3 weeks. And I went, absolutely. So I went home for Christmas feeling fantastic because, I had a job I was stepping back into in January and it was working on something I was really enjoying. And then I got to meet Liam Neeson.
Yeah, of course.
So that was cool.
That's always great. So did they want to, because I've seen the movie and I try to imagine once I read, I'm like, so what did they ask you to do? Try to do a little Batman kind of stuff? I'm like,
no, it's vehicles moving down certain streets and people coming from certain angles because you're trying to show the movement of things and where the camera will move to and so on. So much of what you do as a storyboard artist is showing where the camera's picking up characters, where people move into a shot, So it's that side of things. And I mean, I love that because... So
isn't this a great, I would say, training, practice for comic book?
Oh, it's...
Because you learn so much of the dynamic.
It's very interesting because there's not so many guys who have done storyboards who've gone on to do comics, but there's a hell of a lot more people who've done comics and moved into storyboarding. I think comics creates great drawers
Mm-hmm.
who, first and foremost, it's about the artwork.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's about it's telling the story as well, but it's telling the story in such a way that, I mean, most artists that I know have got a great angst over the work that they're doing. They love doing it, and they hate seeing the mistakes they're making, and the next time around they want to be better again. That's the way I feel about it, you know. The thing is, it's I mean, for me, it's the same thing. Art is first.
Yeah.
I love drawing, and you know, people have said to me about my day job, right? You know, because again, they talk about you being on Game of Thrones all day long, because it's a long day, and it's like, so what do you do at home? You know, for relaxation? I was like, well, I draw, and it's like they look at you like you're crazy, but the point is, you do, because you draw something else.
Yeah.
You go home to do one of your own projects. So I've got my vampire comic strip that I'm working on, and I've also got my angel book that I'm doing these drawings for. So I've got these two separate things. And I had an exhibition a while back that meant that I was, I had a whole month that I was doing new paintings that were added into the exhibition. I mean, and that was a month in my studio just painting away. So the thing is, though, you know, it's all about artwork. And the other side of it is, I mean, I direct stuff now when I can. And I write short films, and I storyboard my short films, so I know what it is.
Did your experience with storyboarding really help you?
Oh, it really does.
You know, because as a director, it's not like just saying cut, etc. Right? So you have to know what you want the whole shot to be, what they want to do, not just say the lines, right?
No. All directors are different, and some of them don't use boards, some of them pretend not to use boards, some of them do use boards, and some of them meticulously use boards. If it was good enough for Alfred Hitchcock and Steven Spielberg, it's good enough for me. I ain't those guys, but the fact is I do work out what I'm going to shoot first, because it saves money and it saves time, and it's you understand the dynamic of your story by working it out on paper. You know, it's a storyboard. It's a guide. It's not the absolute, because the minute you get the camera set up and you start shooting live actors, it's a more amazing thing, because these things are starting to come to life, and it's wonderful. But I love that. So it's interesting, because this year I'm hoping, if everything goes as planned, there's a science fiction strip that I wrote years ago. It was just after my 2000 AD time, in a way. I'd started thinking about this then. I'd written it as a short story to do as a comic strip. And then I went on to do lots of other work. And then I came back to it later because a friend had said about it, make a good film. And I sat down and I rewrote it many, many years later to be a short film. And then a friend saw it, and another producer said, you know, have you ever thought of this as a feature film? So I sat down and wrote a feature film version. And then I realised nobody's going to give me the money to make, because it's far too expensive. So I then started writing other ones that were cheaper, you know, so I could gradually bring it down, hoping that I can get somebody to say yes. But the point was, during that time I did some other short stuff, and the film sort of sat for a little while. But this year, there's a couple of friends in Scotland have come on board and to produce it, and they're really interested in doing it. And it means that I may actually get to make my woman soldier feature film or short film. Sorry, I was anticipating the future really, but the short film Axle Grease, and so I'm waiting to see if it'll work out. So I mean, we're doing a lot of kind of prepping at the moment on parts of it, and if it does work out, it'll be good fun to do. It'll be very much influenced by 2000 AD. I mean, that's the point. It'll be influenced by that, because that's where I came from.
And it would be
fun.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
It'll
be interesting.
Of good science fiction movies.
Well,
so
I think so. I mean, it's, you know.
We don't have a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with sci-fi, I guess you'll have noticed anyway, is that to do it a lot of the time, you need these big, vast visual effects. And sometimes that then gets away from the story.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Whereas I loved the old science fiction, which had great stories and maybe not so good effects, but they had great stories.
Yeah, that's true. That like Ex Machina didn't have they didn't need the whole, but the story was.
The story was solid.
That
Yeah, it was, and it was great. Yeah. So that's the thing. I think you could still do brilliant sci-fi but keep it tight.
Yeah, you don't have to pay.
What was that brilliant? There was that crazy Russian vampire film thing that was made. Was it
Night Watch?
No.
No.
Oh, it was Night Watch,
Night
wasn't it?
Watch.
Because they did Day Watch after,
Yes.
didn't they?
Yeah.
Night Watch was made on a shoestring,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Day Watch they've been given loads of money for.
Yeah.
But Night Watch is
Night
still the
Watch
one
is
that
still better.
you still think about. It's an incredible piece of work.
So you don't need that money, and the same with District 9 from New
Oh
York.
my God, yes, that was an incredible piece of work
Yeah.
as well. So great science fiction.
And still, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Sorry, yeah.
For the
Well, I
short
hope, yeah, I hope the short.
feature.
Anyway, the short first, and then we'll see what happens. But the thing is, no, for me, that's still art. It's still storytelling.
Yeah.
For me, it's still pictures following pictures, which is exactly what you do in comic strips. It's sequential art, which is exactly what you do in storyboarding because it's directly related. But the film, again, it's all my love of image.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons I've taken over the last bunch of years so many photographs is just because you start to realize I want this piece of artwork that I don't have to sit down and paint. It's there, boom,
Yeah.
click, and you've got it. And it's not that you're not thinking about artwork for painting and stuff like that, and images, because I do that all the time still. But you realize you can't do all the images that are in your head. So a lot of the time, taking a photograph means that you're getting an image. You're getting something that is still another piece of artwork, and the ones that aren't are reference.
Of course. So when you say about like the perspective here, what I hope understand is like I found like two types of comic book creators that focus on the character or on the like visual, like telling a story from a, let's say, director's perspective or visual perspective, or they focus on the character and they don't care about what is on the background. He or she wants to show like the emotions, etc. Everything else is like it's not that important. So you're much more visually oriented, let's call it that. So did you ever feel like who would I like to draw? Like what kind of character that I never did would I like to go back or?
Man, the big thing is I grew up loving Marvel comics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was one of the things. In Britain we had such a mixture of influences because Northern Ireland, where I was, we had British funny comics, Dandies and Beanos. We had war comics. I mean, the war comics were really popular. Oh, the Second World War had ended. I'm not that old, but it was like we were. The British still live on the Second World War. They're still there. I mean, they just did Dunkirk recently.
Yeah,
anyway,
just did
okay.
Dunkirk, so
the point, I think that must be something to do with Brexit or something. Anyway, I'm not sure. But the point is, we have all of this amazing stuff. And I remember seeing the Trigon Empire by Don Lawrence, who went on to do Storm and so on. And it was beautiful stuff. And I'm looking at this thing thinking, geez, this is comics. Then I discovered American Marvel comics because we were getting American Marvel reprints in the UK. And you were getting the history of comics in a year because they were printing weekly what the Americans would print monthly. So you were getting it condensed.
Oh.
So the point is you're voraciously reading all this stuff. So I loved superheroes. And one of the reasons I wanted to get into comics was to draw superheroes. I've not done very many superheroes. I always loved
Batman,
Thor. I loved Conan. I loved so many. I mean, the Avengers and stuff way back when. I love all that stuff. There was so many brilliant superheroes. And then the thing is that I think one of the only, other than Batman, I did Punisher 2099.
Yeah.
But Punisher 2099 was very much like a 2000 AD story.
That's
Because
true.
Pat Mills
That's
wrote it,
true.
and it was drawing it was like doing a 2000 AD story. But the thing is, I still love the whole superhero thing. The problem is there's so many brilliant superhero artists that you actually think, how can I follow those people? No, I'm absolutely serious. It is a very tough thing to think about who you would follow.
So one artist, so not artist, but one character would.
I'd love to do it. I'd love to do a Thor story, but I'd love to do a Thor story that's kind of, the original Thor character. I did a couple of pages of one that I fancy doing myself one time. I just did a couple of pages, and it was like, oh wow, I'd love to do this. It was a Ragnarok story, and it was just something. It was meant to be the end of the gods, and it is a bit of a conversation that goes on within it before battle ensues. But it would have been nice to do. The thing is, I end up then doing my own stuff and get enthusiastic about my own type of characters. that one of these days I hope I get to do more of those, because they will be still based on the things that I've always loved doing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I like my medieval warfare. I like my prehistory stuff. I like war comics still. I mean, and I've got stories that can go with all of these things. I don't like my vampires. I mean, I do like vampires. And there's a thing, I mean, I hope Elaine and I can get together on this one, because Elaine Lee had another story idea called Seraphim, which I did a couple of paintings for, and we just never kind of seemed to have the right time. But I'd love to get a chance to do that. So who knows, maybe after Game of Thrones I'll sit down and do that.
After the short film.
After the short film, and then the other film, and then the other one. I did a little art film recently, and that one has been finished and edited, and I just need to put a little bit of extra sound on it. And it's a very short film. It's 5 minutes and 20 seconds long, and it's called It's Not You.
Oh. Is it a sci-fi or was it a
No,
drama?
no. It's like what does a girl say to you? You know, I mean, it's usually it's not you, it's me.
Oh, okay. So this is something completely different.
Yeah, it's a completely different thing. Yeah, but I'm a sensitive artist.
Of course, not only.
I do other things.
Wolves.
It's not all about fantasy and crazy mad flipping dragon.
So we can consider this our last question.
Okay.
But the time has come for my little request. If you could say to our viewers, welcome to Beards from Outer Space, but in Polish.
Oh my God! Man. All I can say in Polish is kurwa, kurwa, kurwa. Is that not enough?
But this will be beautiful, because I can say it quickly. It is witamy na brodach z kosmosu, and we can. That's almost good. But it would be great. I would use it to promote. Witamy na brodach z kosmosu.
Go back again. What's the first word?
Witamy.
Witamy
Na brodach
na brodach
z kosmosu.
z kosmosu.
Beautiful. And now
Beautiful.
Much better than Simon Bisley. I can tell you that. We work on
Forgive my Polish.
So now the whole thing. Witamy na brodach z
Wait
kosmosu.
a minute. It was all right.
But you have to say it to the viewers.
No, wait a minute. I've lost it again. What was that first word?
Witamy na brodach z kosmosu.
Oh no, wydamy na brodach z kosmosu.
Kosmosu.
Kosmosu. No, I got it
Cosmos,
wrong.
because it's
Yeah, the
fake.
cosmos. Oh no. Hold on. Witamy
Witamy na brodach
na brodach kosmosu. Witamy na brodach kosmosu.
Great.
So that's bad.
But still, it would be on YouTube. The worst.
The best of the worst. Sorry, folks.
So thanks once again.
Okay.
And I hope we'll see the short and the feature.
Absolutely. I hope so.